Oops, something happened. We lost we lost our live feed. However, we're coming back on. So apologies for anybody that is in the thread and had a bunch of comments that we didn't get to.
Noel, do you have any access to that old feed just to tell them what happened? If I don't even know if that's necessary.
Let's not do that.
All right.
It's just live on all our channels.
Excellent. All right, sweet. I'm sure Len will be back with us in just a second. What's going on? No, hey, all right. Oh no, hey, he's back.
How's everybody? I don't know what happened, but it happened.
All right, sidekicks and henchmen.
Did anybody have any? I'm having audio weirdness. Is everybody hear and sound okay? Yeah.
You're a little tinny. It's like a little mechanical.
You sound like you're underwater a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're live, so.
Yeah. So that's the real deal. That's what's happening.
And is everybody still recording?
I am. All right.
Okay. This will be fun.
Yeah. Is anybody still here? If there's anybody watching us, please say something, comment. What do we got? All right. They'll get the picture. This is a special bonus second half of Spoiler Alert.
Talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, as we bring you the comics and the chopping it up on comics that you love, yes. Ladies and gentlemen. My name is Len, aka the Bat Tribble, and joining me right up there.
Hey, it's Brian Lee.
You know, Brian, you've got to come up with a longer name, dog. You can't just keep saying that it's Brian. It's Brian Lee.
Brian Lee. It's I have other names, but let's see. I do have a tribble name also.
Okay. What is your tribble name?
That's the literal tribble.
There you go. Okay.
That's that. I have a Hebrew name.
What's your Hebrew name?
A middle name. My Hebrew name is Aaron Mordechai ben Noe Yitzhak. Ben means son of. So I am Aaron Mordechai, son of my dad, Noe Yitzhak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, Aaron and Brian share a meaning, and that was, who knows how that happened. And my middle name is Charles. What else have we got? I don't know.
Brian Charles Lieb.
Brian Charles Lieb.
Now, is Charles like your grandfather's name or something?
That is actually my grandfather's middle name, which is, for the third mention of my Jewish heritage on this show, you are not to name somebody after someone who is living, right? It's words and names carry essence, and to name someone after someone who is living is not done, right? My Hebrew name is my grandfather's Hebrew name. He passed away before I was born. My middle name is my grandfather's middle name, but that side of my family is not Jewish, and it was decided to do it in his middle name. So there you go for your interest.
Do I sound better now?
Yeah, you sound great.
All right, thank you.
All
Sorry. Right. Yeah, guys, that was intentional.
Yeah. Whoa, what an experience. What an avant-garde experience.
It was an intentional way to break up the review to the next segment.
Yes, especially since JD wasn't using Audacity, so it'll be easy to edit that out.
Presumably. Yeah.
Good point. So we're. Oh, hey, thank you, action figure expert.
Hey, thank you. All right. Good vibes. Good vibes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bring back JD.
He's off on a journey this week, doing whatever he's doing.
And when he joined, we were up to a couple of live lists. Or you know what? We're gonna move on. So we wanted to get right into the book club review, but there were a couple of other things we read this week. Now I'll give you guys real time response, considering we went a little over with the letters and then the other history. Do you want to do quick thunder rounds of the books that we read, and then we'll talk about book club review? Or do you want to do super thunder rounds with 30-second reviews of the 3 other books that we read, if you're willing to, and then we'll do the book club? 3 minutes or 6 minutes or
a minute and a half minutes.
Or a minute and a half. I'll tell you what. I say the first comment that we get, if it happens within the next 10 seconds, we do that. You say one.
You're all about
or the
democratizing.
other. That's not democratizing. There's only one vote. It's whoever gets in there
Well,
first.
I mean, it's okay.
All right, then let me ask you, Noel. What do you want to do?
Are you vamping for like 6 more seconds, waiting for somebody to say anything?
But nobody said anything, so their chance is gone. Noel, what do you want to do?
Let's just do 30-second reviews. I figured these 3 books we can probably get at it. What do you say? Who
Thunder
wants to do what? So we've got 3 books. We've got you want to do Scumbag?
Yes.
You got it. All right, let me get my timer ready.
Here we go.
Hold on. I would have had this ready, but I didn't.
But then other things happened instead of getting it ready, and here
we lost our feed. And whenever, are you ready?
I'm ready.
And go.
So this was a lot of fun. We read the first issue. I thought it was fun. I probably wouldn't have picked up the second issue. I think if anything, this one was even more fun. This like ratcheted it up to 150%, you know? The story's been established. This guy, I forget what his real name is, but the basically
Ernie.
titular scumbag. It was good.
5.
I thought it was done already.
3.
Anyway, I liked it. The whole antagonistic plot is good too, but
You're
I
done.
won't get into it.
Round.
Thunder round.
Nice. Nicely done. Nicely done.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. Like, I was maybe halfway through this book and thought, oh, this might be a Rick Remender book that isn't for me. I don't know if I can handle this guy the whole time.
Yeah.
But then as soon as they introduce like the bigger plot and how weird he gets with essentially troll culture on the internet and turns them into villains, I was like, okay, I'm in. This is cool.
And he was even more deal withable this issue. I mean, he's not any less of a jackass, but for whatever reason,
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the book a lot. I'm worried though because I know that this book is purposefully going to have each issue drawn by a different artist. So I'm wondering like how that's going to play story-wise because this is decidedly different from the first issue, the art style, and it's good art. I loved it, but it is so radically different that I kept. When I opened it up, I didn't know that was the conceit of the book. So I'm thinking, oh, so it's going to turn back to the original artist on this page. Well, not on this page. Like, oh, so this is where we're going. All right, that's cool. Thank God I like the art. So
it's a real danger too because I knew that it was going to be a different artist every issue. I didn't know it would be a direct continuation every issue, which is dangerous if you want to have like consistency of storytelling. But I presume that Rick Remender knows that because if he's good at anything, it's picking artists. Like if you look at all of his creator-owned book and the artists that he kind of pulled out of obscurity, it's just insane. From Jerome Opeña to, I mean, Tony Moore had a career beforehand, but like really getting out there. Greg Tacchini, Matteo Scalera, like he knows artists. So I'm hoping that he understands you need to kind of at least keep the thread.
Right.
It can't just be wildly different every time.
To be honest with you, I didn't even realize it. I mean, we haven't read it for a month, but I think the main guy is drawn. What's his name? Ernie? Something like that?
Ernie.
Yeah, Ernie is drawn in a different style, but he looks like the same guy. Like he's kind of drawn
it's the same
in the same way in a different style. You know what I mean?
I think the colorist is the same too, which
helps.
That goes a long way. Yeah.
Either way, this was better than I expected it to be, and I'm really looking forward to how it goes.
Sweet.
I'm enjoying it.
But Len, which one do you want to do?
I would do Kaiju Score.
Kaiju Score. You son of a bitch. All right. I was kind of hoping to poop on this one myself. Hold on. Let's get your timer. And go.
Well, I don't know what Noel was thinking. I had fun with this stupid comic book. It's stupid. It's about these guys planning a heist timed for the attack of a kaiju, which is a huge monster, and they want to take advantage of this monster's, impending doom that it's going to inflict on the city so that they can fire up this conflict, make this crime heist happen. And it's a cool idea. It's well thought out, and it's funny.
End of round.
I liked it.
Oh, nice.
Take a dump on it if you want, but it's stupid.
I'm not gonna take like dump on it. I just thought that the concept was awesome. I hated the art, and I didn't like any of the characters.
Well,
I
don't think you're supposed to like the characters, though.
No, I mean, like, not even in an anti-hero way. Just like
You didn't like reading about them.
if it was supposed to, it's supposed to be crazy, and the the idea of it is crazy. These people aren't even successful caricatures. They're just like plot contrivances. You know, like, you've got a safe cracker. You've got a this. Like, make them weird, make them crazy, do something. But I don't really care for any of them yet. So hopefully the second issue will like cover that ground, because this was really just all set up.
True.
See, I found myself thinking, like, if you're into kaiju, this is one of those books where it's like, yeah, if you've always been in this world, you might think like, whoa, what would this be like in a world with kaiju? I have not always been in that world. You know, I don't really care about the giant monster kind of genre. So I found myself not really, like the possible permutations of a real life existence that just takes place in a world with kaiju, but isn't focused on them. It didn't really grab me as much as that would for, say, like a superhero story that, based around something similar. Like, but yeah, so I probably wouldn't read the second issue myself, but yeah.
There's this reminded me of like two really terrible cheesy action movies. One that came out a while ago, one that was pretty recent. Hard Rain. With Morgan Freeman and Christian Slater. So essentially, it was just a heist during a hurricane, and the dam was about to break. So like things happening during the rescue efforts, and then plucky Christian Slater or whatever. And the other one is called Hurricane Heist.
That's the one I was thinking of. Yes,
where they steal a hurricane from somebody.
Yes, they steal a hurricane. No, they plan a heist during a hurricane, or maybe the heist gets interrupted by a hurricane. I don't know.
Something like
it just wasn't very good. But it was just, the movie wasn't good because, look, I like trash. You're talking to a fan of Fast and Furious. I like garbage, but it's got to be good garbage that knows it's garbage. When you start taking yourself absolutely seriously in earnestness, then it's just sad. This kept riding the line for me. Like, oh, come on, if you're going to be fun, just be fun. Stop it. Like, it's when they, like, you could take it seriously without being boring.
See, I didn't think this took itself too seriously. I thought it played fair there. I will agree with you, though, that the art takes some getting used to, and I don't know if I necessarily fully got used to it. I liked the book well enough on its own. I don't know if it's a book that I would continue reading, but I thought that on its own, it's like it's set up. It was kind of cool, but the art definitely pulls you out. I am not.
Yeah, this is going to be an issue 2 story. Like, there's enough in here that's kind of fun to try it, but I'm not really super excited for the next issue. We'll just see.
All right, so which one are you going to do, Noel?
I'm going to do Department of Truth number 3. Does anybody else have a timer? Because every time I use my phone, it knocks my headphones out.
I got a timer.
All right.
So which one are you doing?
I'm going to do Department of Truth number 3 by James Tynion IV and Martin Simmons.
All right. You have 30 seconds on the clock. Are you ready? Then begin. So
this is becoming one of my favorite series. We've essentially, in some way, shape, or form, covered every issue of it so far. Only 3, but still. They keep coming up with new ways to play with the high concept of, if enough people believe something, it becomes true. And then there's this department to actually keep the truth the truth. This is about crisis actors and crazy people like Alex Jones telling their lies, and what that actually happens when people start believing it. And it was uncomfortable.
End of round.
But it was really good.
It was really good.
It was really, really good.
That was an angle that I hadn't thought of for this book. Like, what if the conspiracy that, like, who might be compelled to try to believe in these theories?
And the example given in the book is just so incredibly good, too, because it's a mother whose son was killed during a school shooting, and her being inundated with so much media, she starts to doubt herself whether her kid's really dead or not. And then because of the concept of this book, where if enough people believe in a conspiracy theory, it becomes true, she starts to get these information biases that look real, of her kid's actually an actor and he's alive. Here's a videotape of it. And, like, this proof of her son not being dead manifests itself, so she becomes almost radicalized in this crazy lie. It was wild. I did not expect this book to go there.
Yeah.
They're talking about crazy stuff like Satan worshippers and flat Earth. I did not expect it to go immediately into Alex Jones' creepy territory.
The people who believe those things are all, in the first 2 issues are like, they're the ones in the wrong to, like they think the Earth is flat. Some of them intentionally want some bad thing to happen, whereas the focal character in the story is much more sympathetically believing why she's kind of almost at first doesn't want to believe and then pushes herself to believe it because of the possibility of getting her son back, which they then say, the 2 agents are like, that wouldn't necessarily happen. There are a lot of ways that story could manifest itself, which I thought was narratively interesting. But as a character, she was incredibly sympathetic and a very interesting choice by Tinian.
The way that it all ends too is very unsettling. Like
very.
I don't know if we're going to see this mother again, but if we do, I don't think she's going to be an ally.
Yeah. I agree.
It's a very good book.
It's a good closing line for the story, the final page.
Yeah, and it's a book that the only reason I don't love this book is because of how unsettling and the feeling that it gave me. It's like, where we are today in society, it was like almost like, I don't need this, man. I don't need this right now. It's good stuff. I ain't mad at you, but it's just, woo. Woo. Let me read about some kaiju.
Yeah.
Where I went.
No,
man.
This was another dense read because this also had Martin Simmons' art style is very kind of painterly in a way too. It's not necessarily kinetic. Normally that doesn't work for me, but here it does because they throw a lot of like prose boxes around. To make it.
And it's a good story for that kind of art. It really.
There's a lot of narration.
I'm with you, but it's like it fits the story, so I kind of am like, okay, I'll get with it.
For those of us just joining the second stream of the first stream, we had technical issues, got cut in half. JD's actually not here this week because he had way too many other things to do. So we're doing our best to not screw it up. But thank you for mentioning
for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you.
And you missed our. Make sure you watch this from the beginning so you can see our review of the other history of the DC universe, and you can see JD pop in for a quick little review of Batman Catwoman #1.
And we have a little chat about. Go on.
We had a cool conversation about collecting comic books and comic book stores. So definitely check out the first half of our stream. After you finish watching what we're bringing you now.
Yeah, don't do both at once. It would be confusing. Now, speaking of comic book stores, Len, last week JD asked me if I had heard enough about Patreon.com, and I told him I would get back to him this week, but he's not here. What I really want is to hear it from you, Noel. That's what I need.
Well, if you want to support the show, there are very simple ways in which you could do so. The first one you're doing right now. Watch, like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell. Any kind of a way to ping the algorithm that we're here and we're having conversations with you is a wonderful way to do so. Down below, you'll see the links, youtube.com/cultpopgo or facebook.com/cultpoppodcasts. Have fun with us every weekend, Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where usually there aren't this many technical difficulties. Another way that you could support the show is by engaging in the Patreon, patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. We will have a different Patreon eventually for the show, but this one is a legacy one that we still use. Donate whatever you can, if you can, and just kind of hang out with us and spread some love. You could also do so by patronizing JD directly. Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the neighborhood of Manayunk, 4327 Main Street.
23. I think you said 43.
I thought it was a 43. It's there's a website called Google also, and if just type it in there, and yeah.
I hope he's still listening, and I hope he's freaking out because I messed up the address.
He definitely is.
The address of the place I go like 4 times a week.
Well, you just walk there. You don't need to know the numbers on the front.
Remember it,
right?
Yeah. I can tell you what it's near.
Right.
Hey, it's the only comic book shop in Manayunk, ladies and gentlemen. So if you go to Manayunk and you're in a store that's selling comics, you're in the hero complex.
True story. But anyway, yeah, please, again, like and subscribe. We'll talk to you guys. And I think we could talk about what's on everyone's mind. And that's this month's book club, which was, Brian, what was the name of it?
Oh, that was called 7 to Eternity by Rick. Do you pronounce? I noticed you saying it Remender, not Remender, as opposed to Remender. Yeah. All right. There you go.
So I've listened to podcasts and interviews and stuff, and I've never heard Remender.
Well, I've never heard it said at all. It's the classic like just reading something, and that's just the pronunciation that pops into my head. And you did the art on this one. It was awesome.
This is Jerome Opeña. I have never heard him correct anyone to say Remender.
Okay.
Remender. Yeah, like remember. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, here, you know what? I've got the solicits. This is 7 to Eternity, Volume 1, The God of Whispers, by Image Comics, written by Rick Remender, with art by Jerome Opeña. The God of Whispers has spread an omnipresent paranoia to every corner of the kingdom of Zal. His spies hide in every hall, spreading mistrust and fear. Adam Osiris, a dying knight from a disgraced house, must choose between joining a hopeless band of magic users in their desperate bid to free their world from the evil god, or accepting his promise to give Adam everything his heart desires. Writer Rick Remender reteams with collaborators Jerome Opeña and Matt Hollingsworth to take you on a hard road through the strange fantasy world of Zal. All men have surrendered their freedom for fear, and now one last free man must choose. It's a weird book. What'd you guys think?
I liked it. Now, just as a quick aside, honestly, I was pronouncing it Osiris in my head, and Me too. Stick with. Me too. Yeah, I like that.
Keep it. That's one where I wasn't saying anything out loud.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. It's just I love it when that happens. You're just like, this collection of letters, and then that's what you recognize. So I thought it was great. This is an introduction into a fantasy world that is done very well, and it's kind of a frequent talking point on this show, semi-frequent, that introductions into fantasy worlds can very easily be done not well. Where they try to just hit you with, here's encyclopedic knowledge of this world that I have created that I know all about, and it's very cool if you get into it. He doesn't do that at all. There's some text in the beginning that kind of it gets you into the character's mindset, but then you start off just in the middle of this story, this story that has transpired a while ago. You've got some fantastical kind of elements, but they don't give you any more than you need to keep the story going, and those fantastical elements, as the story in the beginning and as well as it continues, as we meet more and more characters and start getting into the I forget what their names are now, but the people in this world that have powers. Marek, it's not that, but something like that.
Or Marsak or something like that.
Marsak, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Mosak.
Mosak, that is it.
Yeah. Mosak.
Yeah. With the final spelling or with the final letter being K, it's kind of cool, fantasy vibe,
Like magic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a little arcane, And so all these fantasy elements, like the people that have the powers, the animals that we see, they are drawn and imagined in a very cool way. There's a scene where he goes to the Mosak temple, and it's it's one of those like floating rock kind of temples. That's cool. The Piper guy is cool. The different people, the power expressions and geography, and it sets up a really interesting premise, right? That they accomplish something way earlier than I thought they would, and that actually is the story, that they have to transport this guy, their enemy, they can't kill him.
The villain.
The villain. Yeah. Who I think also might, I doubt it stuck, but he kind of turns around for a second in the middle of the story. I doubt that held. But yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned fantasy stuff. We have talked about this before. And the only thing that I could think of that's done it pretty successfully too that we've reviewed on the show was that book Last God. That also did it very well, where it was, instead of a lot of times these types of stories that are so well kind of fleshed out and defined, a writer will attack you with all of it at once, which makes it feel incredibly impenetrable and like, oh, I have to do research reading for what I'm enjoying reading. This doesn't make any sense. Like,
and there's no emotional touchstone to it.
Not at all.
For you, because you don't live in it.
Yeah. This started with a letter from a father to a son, or no, from a son to a.
Yeah, or just like about his father, I think.
Yeah,
right?
it was Adam writing the letter about his father,
Right.
And then we learned his father's choices and stuff. Right away, we have an emotional connection to all this weird stuff that we're now learning, and for some reason, that just really worked for me. I think I had messaged, I had never read this before, even though I had the issues, and Len had read it before once, right?
Yep.
I shot out, like, as soon as I started reading this, I shot out into our group chat, like, hey, give yourself extra time this week to read your books, because not only is History of the DC Universe a dense read, this one is too. But this is also dense in a good way, just like that is. Like, they throw so many new words, new names, new kind of languages at you that you want to kind of spend more time with it.
Yeah.
Like, I found myself spending more time with pages and actually rereading a lot of panels before moving on while I was reading this. So this past Saturday was Black Friday. It was also record store day, so I'll get up early and I'll stand in line at the record store to support my local business. I sat there for an hour and I read half of these 4 issues. It took me an hour to slowly read them because I was just having a good time, like turning back 2 pages and being like, oh, he referenced this person who's talking to this person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was really getting into just 4 issues. 4 issues felt like a meal, when usually with superhero comics, it feels like an appetizer. And I loved it. I loved it.
I like this. I remember when I first bought this comic book, because I've had the trade for a while. I've had the first 2 trades for a while. First of all, let me thank you, Noel, because while I do have the first 2 trades, I've only really read the first trade. I haven't. So the second trade has been just sitting on my shelf as one of those books that, I know I'm going to buy, so I bought it, but I haven't gotten to. So now that it's been inviting me to read that. But I remember reading this, and at the time that it came out, Game of Thrones was still hot, right? It was still definitely a thing. So I was definitely in the vibe for, some high concept fantasy, and seeing if I could find that on the comic book shelves, because it definitely is a place that it has its home in the comic book shelves all the time. And reading this, I felt much like the first time when I watched the Game of Thrones. It was the trappings were familiar enough that I could kind of peep, like, all right, that's going to be the big bad. That's kind of like his hench. This is the family. They're dealing with this. They're off on the outskirts. Definitely has like that fantasy / Western type of vibe to it, But the universe is totally new. So I've got to wrap myself around the concept. This villain, as villainous as he is, his villainy is words. His villainy is just whispers in your ears, giving you what you think you most desire. And there's an interesting line, and I couldn't find it real quick, about the difference between what you want and what you need. And I was like, oh man, this is like, just the literature of the reading was just like, just knocked me back, man. So much so, like you said, no, even though you're introduced to so many new different concepts and vocabulary in this book, you are so steeped in it that you trust the writer that he's going to explain everything to you. And as long as everything is used properly, you get the concept, you get what, who the magic wielders are in this land. You get what are the actual curse words in this land. You know, and even when it jumps back and forth through history, you're right there with it because he's still giving you an idea of what this family is and the character of Adam, and you know, it's just so great, and the artwork by Jerome Pena is breathtaking.
Yeah.
But I don't want to not give just credit to the colorist, Matt Hollingsworth, who I think has a job because some of this I think he's the colorist. He may be the editor, but I believe he's the
colorist.
The colorist. It's colorist.
Yeah.
Some of the artwork, because of the line weight of the inks, might be hard to discern from one another. You know, to discern the foreground from the background. That's where a smart colorist comes into play, and Matt Hollingsworth just lends so much mood and tapestry and beauty to the coloring, but also helps define where your eyes should read. In your reading of this book, and I just thought this was a package that was like, I remember when I saw it in trade in the comic book store. I opened it up. I maybe looked at 2 pages, didn't even pay attention to the story. I saw 2 pages. I saw the lettering look spot on with the art, and I said, "Oh, this is an easy buy." And I have not regretted it.
Jerome Pena is one of my favorite artists, but he's got this. I don't know how he's able to be both loose and incredibly detailed at the same time.
Yeah.
But he is like his lines are incredibly loose and they don't always connect. Yet everything he draws is so arcanely detailed that it's wild. So having the right colorist turns that from art to mud, right? Or the wrong colorist. The only other colorist that I could think of that knows how to work with Jerome Pena is Dean White. So Dean White did all of his colors for when he was working on Uncanny X-Force, and all of that stuff too. Kind of was able to take those loose pencils and not get mixed up in the foreground and the background, and show you exactly what. Like, just this stuff is awesome. There's I love Rick Remender. I'm a very big fan of his work, and this is the first time I'd read this. This is not my favorite thing of his. But I think this is the best written thing of his that I've read.
Okay.
I am, just as a counterpoint, I'm not a big fan of Rick Remender. I like the end. Well, but that's to say, like, but I really like this book. You know what I mean? Like, so even if you're not too into it, like he wrote the End League, I thought was good, but he also does something in there that I'm like, why? You could have gone this way and it would have been really cool. It's your own story. You tell the story you want, but I'm just disappointed I didn't get to read that. But I enjoyed that. Yeah, I mean, I think you'll really dig it. I thought it was a really good story.
I actually have all my desk set up has books atop as opposed to over here. All of my Rick Remender stuff is right here. So it's like Fear Agent, Tokyo Ghost, Black Science, and this.
So I haven't read any of those, so I might like those. I'm mostly read his superhero stuff. I'm
actually halfway through the second edition of Black Science. I think you would really like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd be open. Yeah.
It's like it's Fantastic Four, but it's like hard science Fantastic Four with not awesome people.
Yeah, it's not awesome people.
Okay.
I wasn't a big fan of Black Science. I forgot that he did Fear Agent. Fear Agent was a lot of fun. Yeah, I got that too.
Speaking of the art, though, I find I don't know if it's only the art or if it's partially the story. But it's a different kind of fantasy, right? It has almost a like a tech science fantasy feel, you know, whereas like there's no orcs, there's none of the characters that you're familiar with from fantasy. And there's the God of Whispers kind of looks a little bit like Zorn from the X-Men, you know, back in the day. Yeah. What were you gonna say, Noel?
Oh no, like I know it's not the right terminology for it because magical realism is something different, but there is a realistic kind of aspect to the way that they treat magic here. Yeah. There's still engineers, there's still mechanics, there's still machinery, yet it's all kind of imbued with the magic. So like, what is it? Adam Osiris?
I said Osiris, yeah.
his Mossack ability is to commune with the dead, but he does it through nails, which are bullets imbued with blood of fallen and pure souls and whatnot, and he's able to commune with them as he's shooting them at somebody. So like it's this weird juxtaposition of Western technology, just a fucking rifle, but with kind of this sense of magic. And then the other thing too was the character designs are wild.
Yeah.
We have a giant alligator dinosaur named Drawbridge who has a big old apparatus to open his mouth, which they walk through because it's a portal.
Right.
There's crazy stuff in this book.
Yeah.
Dope.
There is a goblin. I shouldn't say I forgot, but one of the characters is a goblin, which is a common fantasy character, but he certainly is not,
Your
the
typical
prototypical goblin. And
Right.
he's the last of his kind, which is an interesting. There's a lot of world building in here that is like you don't need to know that story. You don't feel like you're missing anything. Maybe they'll get into it, but
Also, the other character, Patchwork.
Patchwork. Oh my God, it's my favorite.
Dude.
My favorite.
An amalgam of a bunch of different body parts of her kin that she's able to just kind of absorb.
And she was killed along with all of them, and that's when her abilities surfaced, which caused her
essentially
to be,
tossing somebody in pieces into a mass grave, and she rose up as pieces of her kin. There's
some interesting stuff, and their whole relationship with the Osidises, is completely unfair, and
There's so much to chew on in just 4 freaking issues. So this series ends this year. This is one of those books that takes like really long pauses in between arcs because the art is so intense and the creators are doing other things. So
is it all Openia?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No fill-ins. So that also adds.
That's why it's taking so long. Right.
This book started in like 2013 or 2014
Oh, really?
or something.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And they're just now ending this year with issue 17. So like I think issue 14 just came out. 13 are available. And so what they do is like they will write and draw the whole arc, and then when it's done, they solicit it. So you've got like, a 2-year break, but you'll get 4 issues in a monthly without breaks. So this is about to end. And I used to think like, oh, just 17 issues, that'll be breezy. Now having read the first 4, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a complete story.
No,
It's not going to feel rushed. Yeah.
Because this is one that I want there to be a beginning and end to the story. And right after I got done with it, I was like, oh, that was it? there was one more issue? So then I went on to see like, well, what else is available? And I saw they were up to 17. So I had no idea about the rest of the scheduling reality behind that, or that was the end. I'm glad to hear that.
It's ending. And you're going to have to like physically keep me away from owning this book in a large format. Because this art is just so disgustingly good.
Oh
it is
God.
good. I was just looking at the scene where the giant guy appears that is this whole other realm of existence that's a
the
great
Piper
thing.
brings this big crazy thing. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is happening?
The Piper wouldn't even touch on the Piper.
I know, right? Dude,
he opens up, he's just got nothing but flutes. Like, what's happening? This is a good book.
And he's another guy that looks like he could be in, like I could see him from in a sci-fi movie about like an expansive galactic empire. You know what I mean? Like, and even the guy that he brings in is this very like science-y kind of version of fantasy, like we were talking about earlier. But the Piper and the reveal about his relationship to the Mud King.
The Mud King.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff. I can't.
It's hard to imagine. I remember when you said this, that this was going to be our book club, and you put it out there that this was, the first trade is only 4 issues. And I was like, is it really 4 issues? Because I just remember how dense it is. But it really is 4 issues. And when you think about what happens, no shade, but if this was Brian Michael Bendis, we would be on issue 8 before they get the Mud King.
Yeah.
That happens in the 2nd issue.
There's no deconstruction. There's no deconstruction here. It's literally just. This is I loved this. I would recommend it, but I maybe wouldn't recommend it to everyone. It's a very specific type of story. So if somebody's just like doesn't do magic, isn't a fan of something like Game of Thrones, only prefers superheroes or crime books, this might be a real hard sell, especially this first 4 issues. Like getting through the first issue is an effort, and then you're in. But learning everything right off the bat, I would be hard pressed to like put. So like I don't think my wife would like this. I think she would like it if it was a movie, but
that's a good
format of it. I don't think. I mean, it'd be great. Speaking of, I got to put my ring on.
Another thing that can make it difficult, right, is you don't know who the main character is going to be in the beginning. And that has a bit of a destabilizing element that sometimes for stories can be like it makes it a little harder to get a handle on what the story is. So if you're not as invested in the type of story that it is, then maybe you wouldn't go past the first half issue or whatever.
Yeah, the first chunk of the issue, you meet Adam's family, and then you don't see them for the rest of this volume.
Right.
Like his
Although
daughter.
was the daughter in the background in one of the scenes? Is she following them?
I don't think so.
I didn't see it.
Okay.
I didn't see it. But that kind of setup though makes it feel even more a little bit like Game of Thrones, because at any moment our main character can be killed. And the story would still progress without him. Right. Because it's a larger kind of conceit that they opened up. It's just the House of Osiris. Right. It could be literally any member of it. I wouldn't even be surprised if like between issue 10 and 11 there's a 10-year jump. I don't know. Like this could literally like they've imbued this narrative with so much stuff that they could do anything. And I'm sure I could guess how it all kind of ends. X will die, X will win, but how they get there, I'm not. It could do anything. It's cool.
The one little kind of real little thing is I don't know what this shape is in the beginning and the ends of issues, right? That they show it's the same shape, and they show just something from the issue. It's cool, it's a pleasing shape, and I like it.
Does it ever change? It's the same shape every time.
I think it's the exact same shape. Yeah.
At first, I thought it was numbers in this language.
That's what I thought.
That's what I thought too. 4. Something. Yeah, like it kind of looks like a 4 a little. It gives you a look. I believe it's the same.
Does it look like? So all the Mossack's that are officially Mossack have kind of a logo that we don't really ever get a full view of. Like it's almost like a badge, X-Men type of logo, like green with black on it. Is it their logo?
No, well, I am looking at it now. The shapes do change.
They're very different from each other.
Oh, then it's numbers. It's got to be numbers.
So it could be numbers. Yeah. It could be numbers.
I don't have my copy in front of me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're not even similar. They're like a similar style. They're not.
You remember what I said 10 seconds ago?
Right.
I was wrong.
Disregard.
I was just wildly wrong.
Yeah, that was opposite 10 seconds.
It's just, I mean, look, man. I think you're right. Though I think in another medium, this would kill.
Yeah, this would be a good movie.
Even if it was just like a 2D anime style animation. Would be or like I'm thinking more like Frank Frazetta style animation, not necessarily like. So when I think anime, sometimes I think hazy backgrounds. I don't want that. Like the DC animated movies do that all the time, and it pisses me off. Like you hired somebody to draw those backgrounds. Why are you soft focusing everything? It pisses me off.
Right.
I just thought they drew them like that. Much harder.
It's it's light pencils. Let's just blur it out.
No, what I could see is I could see them taking the technology that Disney is using for the Mandalorian and the way that they are doing their shows, basically building them in this, filming them in this huge set, big room with all these, walls and the scenery more or less just projected on there. I could see this done. I could see Seven to Eternity done that way.
They call it something. It's not the Void, the Massive, they call that set something. It's
they do. I don't know.
It's essentially just 360 6K definition screens, and then they put a little set in the middle and just like put the background up there.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Do you have HBO? Cool. Do you have Disney Plus?
I do. Yeah.
Oh yeah. They got a making of.
I heard it's very cool though. Yeah.
All you have to do is watch the making of the filming. Don't bother with like. Okay. I mean, they're all great. But if you want to know what we're talking about, I think it's like episode 3 or 4 that just talks about the technology that they created.
Oh, it's episodes? I thought it was just one thing. I thought it was.
No, they go through the whole creation of the series and all that.
Oh, okay.
The Massive. I think it's called The Massive.
That sounds right.
It's wild. 90% of the show, even though it takes place outside, is done indoors in weird, crazy ways.
That's cool.
It's very cool. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, what a layered story. There's all these the reason that the Osidises are against the Mud King and what could happen otherwise, and the different pulls on Adam by the end of the story. It's very engaging. Oh, even this game that they play, like you don't know the rules, you don't know what it is, but it's hits enough touchstones of a game that you can tell that they're playing something, and it's well done. It's a good glimpse into a game that he made up.
There's I don't think I have any. I have nothing negative to say about this. This was kind of boring. I'm sorry. Like this was just wonderful. This was just wonderful.
Yeah, I don't either. I absolutely do not, and I don't want to even go too deep into the story because I want people to pick this up. Yeah, because I think it's just a phenomenal comic book. It's great. It's great stuff.
And it won't take long to catch up, everybody. It ends this like if you want to get caught up in real time, there's 3 trades available that cover the first 13 issues, and then issue 14 literally just came out in November. By February of next year, it's going to be over, and you can catch up with it in real time.
Seven to Eternity, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah, 7 to Eternity. Here JD did chime in with what he thought, or so far. He didn't finish it. I really wanted to read 7 to Eternity, but looked at the amount of text and fell asleep. He's had a very long weekend.
He has. So, you get an opportunity.
But those are all the books that we covered this week. Yay! Now, did you want to do some gutter talking?
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, I was going to leave it to Len.
Oh, well, I mean, just for a quick moment, we don't have to go long on it because we this was supposed to be a quick show, ladies and gentlemen. This was supposed to be a real quick show. And
many good things.
30-second thunder rounds lasted 4 minutes apiece.
Maybe like 2 minutes apiece.
Hey, that's our signature style. We don't do anything quick. We just do it fun.
Exactly. But we do it for you. One thing I just wanted to pick up on was going back to the other history of the DC universe, and one of the most rewarding aspects of reading that book was to get this other perspective on some of the historical things that have happened in DC and comic book history. I especially enjoy the commentary because you're getting like the inner monologue of Black Lightning as you learn in this story. And I enjoyed his perspective on why he turned down joining the Justice League originally back in the 70s. This happened around 76, 77, 78 in that
and period. That is what happened, right? Like that is
actually what happened in the comics. It's not a spoiler because it's told in this book as well. And it's a comic that happened 50 years ago. The Black Lightning already being a superhero, already having his own comic book out there, and also, I believe, if I remember, already having met Superman at this moment, because he works in Suicide Slum, which is like a part of Metropolis. He is asked by the Justice League to join them by way of 3 Justice Leaguers pretending to be villains to test him to see whether or not he is worthy to be a member of the team. And then after he, defeats these villains, the Justice League go and have a conversation about, okay, well, he passed that test. Do we want him to join? Well, are we ready in 1977, 78 to have a black guy on our team?
Was that in the original story too?
That's kind of alluded to in the original story.
Really?
Don't get me wrong. They're not going to hit it on. They don't hit it on the head as hard as you would now, but it's in the original story.
Is it done in such? Is it like a? Is the world ready for this? We want to do this kind of thing. Or,
exactly.
Okay, I got you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Black Lightning basically saying like deuces on y'all, peace out, fuck y'all, and I'm out. But you're never really given his point of view. And I remember reading that comic book, and I was maybe 10, 12 years old. So I wasn't, a graduate, a comic book historian, anything like that. And I was also someone at 10 or 11, to be honest, wasn't as acutely aware that I wasn't seeing myself in the comic books. I was still kind of like lost in the whole idea of like, I like Batman, I like Superman, I like Wonder Woman, It didn't even dawn on me that they were white guys. But I remember reading that story because I was collecting Justice League. I was also collecting Richie Rich and Archie, but that's a side story. But I was collecting Justice League, and I remember saying to myself, well, why are they testing him? He's already a hero. Why they got to test this guy? And it never even dawned on me because I just wasn't, well read enough at that time to like what that speaks of, America's viewpoint on black people and black men especially. And I like that this book, and probably, let's face it, because it was written by a black man, John Ridley is a black man, gave voice to that. And reading that in this book, I was immediately reminded of how I felt when I read that story. And it was like, yeah, I feel that same way. Yeah, exactly. And Black Lightning is feeling like how insulted he felt about that. He speaks about the first time he met Superman and how Superman is kind of like just floating in the air above him. You know what I mean? And like, who the hell are you? You know what I'm saying? And like, yeah, you can fight Luthor and you can fight this and you can fight that. And yeah, you can get in the ring with Muhammad Ali, but you can't come down here to Suicide Slum and maybe help build up a bigger building, build up this daycare center or something like that.
I thought that was an interesting, I don't know if he made that point in the original comic, but in Action Comics #1, that is exactly what Superman does, is my understanding. Like he knocks down some slums so that they build up some other slum. I don't remember the story. I've just heard it referenced. So I thought that picking that example in particular was kind of a like, Superman used to be more of a crusader for change in his very earliest appearances. And, I just thought that was an intriguing particular example to bring up there.
And you know what? And that probably would make sense if you're talking about going back all the way to the original Action Comics #1.
Yeah.
And because of, you got to remember who created Superman. The lifestyle that they were living when they created this image of like this uber guy. So like he would, these were two young Jewish, boys who created Superman, who
fairly poor, I believe.
Fairly poor, so yeah, they would create this hero that would come and change their circumstance. You know what I mean? So that absolutely makes sense. Now, fast forward 40 years later, and Superman is the icon of this company, and we're not. He's not used for that. We need to bring somebody
much more status quo maintaining.
Exactly.
Kind of guy,
exactly. That was the one aspect of the other history of DC Universe, which I think is definitely its goal, that I really, really appreciated. And it just really hit home with me especially like I mentioned in our review, because the book sounds like it's Jefferson Pierce talking.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds exactly how it was like. It was almost like how I would have said it, how Randy would have said it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
There's
I really appreciated it.
I didn't articulate it very well in the review, but to me the biggest conflict of the book and the biggest conflict in the book, especially in Jefferson's, is the expectations and the pull of Black excellence, right? Like even as he embarks on becoming a vigilante hero, he's constantly done a disservice as to how he's being compared to and or portrayed, right? In the public eye, past his neighborhood. And that's the only thing that he can focus on. Like, even though he's winning over this neighborhood and his students, it doesn't matter because there's always this other expectation that's forced on him that's a different metric to everyone else that doesn't share his skin color. The idea that, you know, Batman is not considered a pernicious vigilante, yet he is. What's the difference? Or, you know, when other members,
Batman intentionally strikes fear, and that's why he dresses as a bat.
But he doesn't get nearly as much, you know, terrible coverage as Black Lightning does. Same with the induction or like the invite offer, right? They intentionally try and fool him to see if he'll either give up, cave, or can't do it. Like can't beat these fake villains. And then they deliberate on it as if my actions and how I've conducted myself over the last decades aren't enough. You're going to give me some shit about how you got to now you have to have the discussion.
Right.
Fuck you. Was that an intentionally done thing in the original, in your recollection or opinion, in the original story? Was it like, I mean, because that has happened with like the Avengers, I think, did the same thing to Spider-Man. Like fake fought him to test him out or whatever. Was it in the original story presented with the societal overtones that
I don't
later
think
retellings have?
No.
Okay.
I don't think it matters.
I'm curious as to.
No. Yeah, and my answer is I don't think it matters because what happened in earnest 40 years ago against the lens of current or different perspectives is really all that matters. Like the fact
I didn't know if they were being very self-aware 40 years ago, and the writer was because it was in the 70s. No,
they were reflecting norms. They were reflecting racist norms.
Yeah,
and it was not Tony Isabella writing it, right? It was the
no. This was a Justice League comic.
Right.
I believe it was Jerry Conway.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't. It's not like it was intentionally awful or othering. It just the way that they perceive the situation is a different expectation based off of somebody's race or ethnicity.
Oh no, I wondered if they were intentionally showing to try to tell a positive, like it shouldn't be this way kind of thing in those days, at that time.
No, I never got the impression.
No, they weren't. And it makes sense so much. I mean, the more I think about this stuff, the more it bothers me. And ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about The Other History of DC Universe, which is a new book that is out in comic book stores right now. The issue number 1, which tells the history from 1972 to 1995 of Black Lightning in the DC universe. So this is not his publishing history. This is the character's history in the DC universe. You see his origin, you see his backstory, you see his first coming up against meeting other heroes in the DC universe, and you get his perspective on what it was like to be a Black man and a Black superhero in the DC universe from 1972 to 1995. It is written by John Ridley, who was an Academy Award winning screenwriter.
Really? For what?
For 12 Years a Slave.
Oh, I didn't realize he wrote that.
Yeah. 12 Years a Slave, which was directed by Steve McQueen. He is, and he's a very accomplished writer. He's going to be writing some Batman in 2021. And this book, which is it's a kind of like a prose novel type of thing. You know, these other history books that Marvel and DC have put out over the years. It's done in much that same style with layouts and print. Gives Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning's perspective on the DC universe. And it is a phenomenal read. I enjoyed it a great deal. I spoke in the review about how much I didn't realize that this was Jefferson Pierce is kind of like Batman. And it really hit me because over the last few years, and I'm never going to not be Bat Trouble. I'm never not going to love Batman. But over the last few years, it has, and I know they'll never go there, but it's bothered me a little bit. There's, at least as far as I know, so correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, Batman, very seldomly do you see him working on the micro level. It's always on the macro level. And this guy, Jefferson Pierce, is all about, he elevates himself out of his circumstance. He becomes, you know, the best that he can be as far as an athlete, as far as, you know,
a teacher
and its intelligence. And then he does what every Black person is taught to do, and every Black person of renown right now is doing. He is paying it forward and reaching back and bringing up those behind him. And he stays a teacher. He turns around the circumstances of the kids in his neighborhood. He develops programs that can be taken and used elsewhere to see the fruits of his labors in other cities. He is staunch in how he wants to raise his children. And I think that it is only through the blindsidedness of the people that have been called upon to write his story over the years that the character was not given his just due. And it's so well illustrated in that this book details his entire history, and it has to jump through hoops to make excuses about how he all of a sudden left the scene. But he left the scene because he was doing the goddamn work. I'm sorry, I can get into my bag really about this shit, man, because this is for the first time, and I don't give a fuck what everybody says about Black Panther. This is the first time that as a Black American man, you can see so many stories really illustrated in the comic books.
Also, you can see his skin. Black Panther's got a great costume.
Yeah.
And I know the reason why they changed it, and that was probably what they had to do. But you can see that he is a Black person.
And I'll be honest, I'm someone who has joked over the years about the whole idea that Black Lightning's first costume was a mask with an afro. Why does he have to have an afro mask? Even though in the comic books and even reading in the back issue, everybody read Back Issue magazine, is the best magazine about comic books. Issue 114 gives you the whole history of Black heroes as well as Black Lightning. And there, Tony Isabella, the creator of the book, a white guy, realized that, a Black man who is a teacher is going to have a more conservative look, but a hero is going to have a more flamboyant look. Thus why the afro. Thus also the afro helps protect his identity. As much as I joked about it, I was like, that actually makes fucking perfect sense. And I can't get mad at you for that. I also can't get mad at Tony Isabella realizing that he was a white man, an Italian, coming up with really DC's truly only their second, prominent Black superhero, and really, I contend their most prominent Black superhero, because while Jon Stewart was a few years before, Jon Stewart didn't get his own book, and Jon Stewart quickly got put to the sidelines. Black Lightning was created and had his own book, but Tony Isabella realized that I'm a white guy. I've got to at least get a Black artist on here. And while he tried to pull some artists from Marvel, fortunately enough, through the auspices of DC, he lucked onto Trevor Von Eaton, a very young Black artist who he gave a shot. He loved his artwork and brought him onto the book, brought him on to draw this book. And then it is Trevor Von Eaton, who is one of my favorite artists of all time, a very slept on creator, who totally fleshes out that world and totally fleshes out the look of the character and Suicide Slum and everything like that.
Yeah, so he was always in Suicide Slum? Like, he was always in Metropolis?
Oh, yeah. He was always in Suicide Slum. Yeah. It's from the door, man. And it is only after Tony Isabella leaves the comic book, after the 9th issue, he leaves the comic book. And that's because DC stole Black Lightning. We can go there if you want. I'll go there. And then Denny O'Neil, and then soon Jerry Conway and other people come onto the book, that the book just kind of like it loses its real sense, its real history, its real direction, and is only later, after Black Lightning becomes like a backup and World's Finest and all this other jazz, and it's only really when he joins the Outsiders, that he Batman and the Outsiders in the 80s, that he actually gets any real prominence that he deserves. But even by then, he's just another hero. He's not the legendary. He doesn't enjoy the legendary status that he really should. And I thought that, as big as Jon Stewart probably is in the mind of people right now, as big as Cyborg is in the mind of people right now, as far as Black representation in DC, I thought it was very, shocking, surprising, but smart and just that the first issue of the other history of DC Universe features Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning.
It makes the most sense, right? Like, I hadn't thought about it in the terms that you just laid out, but it seemed like, oh yeah, Jefferson Pierce should be. Now, maybe that's because of the TV show, which I really like. Mm-hmm. And he did, so like when I came into comics, the Outsiders were pretty much done, and he looks very 70s. It's unfortunate that his costume is so 70s looking for so long. But I like that he's risen in prominence from, I think, about the like Brad Meltzer Justice League time is when, and he's kind of costume update. He's and he really has been elevated in like kind of the DC pantheon. I mean, he's a main character in the Young Justice show, and I think it's cool. I mean, he's a cool character.
Yeah,
and real quick, just on that, I actually appreciate that in Young Justice, as much in its most recent season, as much as he is a character in there and a prominent character in there, Black Lightning's not the prominent character.
Jefferson Pierce is. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, it only took them 30 years to start actually mining him as a character of origin, or an origin character. But yeah.
What do you think about? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Just the idea of Mari Vixen's presence in the book, and how he reacts to her, and how confident she is, and how she has a different. She's very different from Jon Stewart, and the fact that she is from Africa, and comes here. I just thought that was an interesting. I don't know if that's always been part of her character, but
it wasn't. So I like how I read it, and just in this issue, it wasn't explicitly said, but I got the impression that Jefferson thinks, because she's all like, I'm out there, I'm gonna do it. He doesn't doubt her, and I think he doesn't doubt, like he says something to the effect of like, if anybody's gonna be able to like pierce the veil, it'll be her, for a couple of reasons. One, her abject confidence, she's absolutely gorgeous and just stunning to see.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not said, but I do think that part of it is also her sense of exotic. She's exotic.
Right.
Whereas if she was just born in suicide slum like him, she would be unnoticed. Whereas she comes from another place and has a little bit more of a visual appeal to her because she's an other. She's special, right?
Exactly.
As opposed to just being invisible. And
also,
I think it's definitely between the panels. It's not like explicitly said.
Yeah, and also like you also said, like the confidence that she exudes, which is because of her upbringing, is what's going to get her over. She doesn't have the baggage that he has.
Yeah,
He's got anger. He's fighting through that as well. The crazy thing about it though is that as much as she is put out there to shine, she doesn't. Vixen also doesn't really pop for reasons that are not within her control. It's all on the other side, man.
Right. She's part of the Detroit Justice League. I mean,
you know what, man? It's funny. I was doing tribbles on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was primarily me and Randy on the show, and we were both kind of like we were talking about other stuff, but we both.
I saw the world's finest tribbles. I thought that was cool. Yeah.
And we were both talking about how at our heart of hearts, as much as we are big, comic book fans, we are DC guys, and it's probably because it's the Superman Batman thing, but. And it's true, and it'll always be true because it's from your childhood, so it's in your bones, right? But man, when you think about, I know I do, and reading back Issue magazine, I read the stories about how fucked up DC Comics has been over the course of its entire lifetime in regards to its depiction and its depiction of black characters and let's face it, sometimes its treatment of some of its black creators. Man, it is sometimes it is hard to be a fan.
I hear
you read those stories, man.
Yeah.
Shit.
So this is my introduction to not only Black Lightning but also Vixen. After Infinite Crisis,
and that's
Brad
the Justice
Meltzer,
League of America. Brad Meltzer. No,
Brad Meltzer took over Justice League, and the edict of the book was to actively expand the roster beyond like Trinity and the original 7. 2 of the main characters that they do that with is Black Lightning and Vixen, and then this rolls out to Dwayne McDuffie taking over the book, which I have over on the other shelf for about 12 issues or so. And he expands those characters even further to the point where by the time James Robinson comes on the book, which is a much maligned run, they essentially tell him he can't have Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So the main characters of the book are Vixen, Black Lightning, Arsenal. Like it becomes a B team. And I read through all of that until it got really weird and crazy. But that's my only real experience with these characters because I didn't watch the animated shows when I was younger.
They weren't really in any of those.
Well, even the new ones, Vixen was. Even the newer ones, I didn't.
Oh, she was. You're right. Oh, that was great too. Oh man, I forgot about that stuff. With the Justice League Unlimited, you mean, right?
Yeah, right.
Well,
The funny thing about that is, as much as Brad Meltzer elevates Black Lightning and Vixen's stature in his run, when Dwayne McDuffie comes on, because sadly that's one of the last runs of his before he passed away. But the story is he got incredible pushback for the things that he was trying to do in that book, and so much so that he literally had to like rewrite some of the stories on the fly because they just wouldn't give him a free hand. And this is a guy who had already made his bona fides in the comic book world. It made his bona fides in the animation world as well. He had just as many, rights to have free hand in writing his comic books as Brad Meltzer did when he did Justice League or when he first came into Green Arrow.
He hadn't done any bona fides. He was a novelist.
Exactly. Yet they were like handcuffing Dwayne McDuffie, and he speaks about that. And he speaks about how much he had to compromise on that run. So much so that as much as I wanted to enjoy it, I can't even enjoy it because I know what he really wanted to do. So that's why I didn't even collect it.
I don't want to know. I want to know, but I don't want to know. But I want to know because I've been meaning to revisit that. So when I got this newer, it's a couple years old, of those 12 plus issues of Brad Meltzer, and it even gets into like the Lightning Saga when Jeff Johns was on JSA and they crossed over for a couple of issues. So like this, I was planning on rereading it sometime this year. It's probably going to be next year at this point. And I went and found, like back issue first prints of the Dwayne McDuffie run with Ed Benes. That's the next like 12 issues of this series.
Right.
Because I remember it fondly. I was getting it in issues at the time. So you telling me that it could have been something even greater makes me sad because he's never going to be able to tell those stories.
Nope.
Unfortunately. There's a lot of Dwayne McDuffie stuff that we should all go back and read. Even his very short run on Fantastic Four was some of my favorite Fantastic Four. It was only like 8 issues, and he killed it.
All right.
Anyway,
before, I get the sense we're wrapping up. There's one piece of news, sad news. Did you guys hear David Prowse passed away?
Darth Vader?
Darth Vader act, the physical Darth Vader. Yeah, I just saw that this morning.
Oh, I did not hear that. Oh.
Yeah. Just this morning, I didn't really see anything about causes or anything. He was an older guy. But
He was an older guy. Yeah. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up to pay our condolences, our respects. Yeah.
No. Well.
Yeah. Iconic character for sure.
You.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the same weekend that his Padawan was premiered in live action. So.
Oh yeah.
I knew the Mandalorian was going to find his way onto this show.
This is not the first time we talked about it in this show. That was a good episode.
You know what? I like we've gone over an hour on 2 different streams this morning.
We sure have.
Are
you not entertained?
I am super entertained, actually. But my legs are atrophied.
Fair
I should
enough.
probably stretch.
I'm hungry.
All right.
You know what? Let's close it out.
All right.
So thanks for joining us this morning. We are here every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to live stream our reviews of this week's comics, as well as just talk about anything that we want to talk about that's geek related. Please comment, like, subscribe, send us an email, correspondence, and we will talk about it during the show. Join us live if you get the chance, and you can obviously be a part of the conversation. I am available for
No, you're not. No, you're not. Show that break, bro.
Yeah.
Show that break, bro.
You can find me on social media on Twitter at Mr. Bartocci, BARTOCCI, or in any of the CultPop feeds on YouTube and Facebook, and I will join the conversation there. Brian, where can anyone find you?
Anyone can find me at brianleibdesign.com.
Hey, and you can holler at a Tribble any place and every place that you find the Black Tribbles. Come out and holler at us.
Thank you, guys. Like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell so you can see whenever we put on new content. We will probably do some Thunder Rounds this week. And, I mean, we already kind of have a preview of what's coming next week. We're going to talk about Bad Cat, probably. I mean, that's a given. And I think the new Marvel event starts next week as well.
Oh, interesting.
The King in Black.
Cool.
So we'll talk then. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day, and we'll talk at you later. Bye.